The super home buyers scheme. I believe it's the best and smartest thing you can do is people's own money, their own super, investing in their own house.
The Liberal Party are reviving their super for housing scheme in direct competition with Labor's new Help to Buy scheme to make things easier for home buyers. Is this just another example of government intervention into the Australian housing market, making things way worse for future and current generations? If you watch any of my previous videos on the Australian housing market or the economy, you get the impression that I believe governments represent the interests of the wealthiest people in the country. It's no longer about picking your ideological side and having them represent your values. That was 20 years ago. The graph of income to property prices demonstrates that housing has been a failure of all governments over a long period of time. I've been providing updates on Albo's Help to Buy co-ownership scheme. If you're not familiar with it, it's the one where the federal government will co-buy a property with you and contribute up to 40% of the purchase price to help you get into the market. The nation owns 40% of your property under this scheme. Another 11%, and you can make the argument to drop the C-bomb here: communism. Recently, Liberal Shadow Housing Minister Michael Sukkar popped up and has flagged the Liberal Party will be recommitting to a policy that was originally raised in 2022 before they lost the last election. In this video, I'm first of all going to give you an update on the Help to Buy scheme because there's been some developments there. I'm going to discuss the Liberals' Super for Housing scheme, what's good about it, what's bad about it, what it means for first home buyers and investors, but also what it would mean for the Australian property market.
With every state and territory government, our Help to Buy plan will commence next year nationwide.
The Albanese government's Help to Buy scheme, the one where you need a 2% deposit and the federal government will pitch in up to 40% of the purchase price, has hit a bit of a hurdle in the Senate. Before I touch on that, I've done a few other videos on Help to Buy, so if you want to get up to speed, you can watch them on my channel. Back to Help to Buy. So right now, publicly, not much is happening. About a month ago, it hit a bit of a stalemate in the Senate. Labor needed the support of the Greens plus 2 crossbenchers to help get Help to Buy through. They didn't get that. The Greens want to end negative gearing for all future investment properties, basically phase out negative gearing for all existing investors, and phase out capital gains tax concessions as well.
Unless Labor is prepared to work with the Greens to fix negative gearing and capital gains tax handouts, cap rents and build public housing, the Greens will vote against Labor's housing lottery bill in the House, and we reserve our position in the Senate.
Clearly this is not the government's policy, so the Help to Buy scheme has stalled, or so it appears on the outside, but you can bet your bottom dollar there is a lot of work going on behind closed doors on this one. You can keep up to date on this one by subscribing to the channel. The one thing I keep saying is the only thing that's certain is uncertainty. And I'm going to be honest here because I did not expect the Help to Buy scheme, and I certainly didn't think the Liberal Party would try and push out the Super for Housing scheme. In principle, the policy, it's pretty simple. I'm going to explain what it was prior to March 21 because since then, the Libs have added some things to it, which I'll get into a little bit after I make my initial points. Prior to March 21, the Super for Housing scheme would allow first home buyers to withdraw up to 40% of their super to $50,000 to purchase their own home. Okay, so for me, immediately upon reading this, I got 2 thoughts. Number one is that super money is there for a reason, and people already don't have enough super. Taking a lump sum out stops compound profits from being made, meaning much lower super balance in retirement.
Super for Housing would win a gold medal for policy stupidity. You don't make housing more affordable by making it more expensive, and that's exactly what this policy would do.
The second thing that this is going to create is more buyers in a market with supply problems, meaning property prices only have one way to go. I'm going to attack these 2 topics in a bit, just because they sum up everything really nicely. But first I want to talk to the first home buyers out there because these guys are probably the people most confused about everything. My personal opinion here is that If either the Help to Buy or the Super for Housing scheme come in, it's going to push the property market higher. If you don't decide to take either option, then you risk having what's happened to first home buyers over the last 20 plus years, and that is the government continually supporting the property market, which ensures property prices go up.
It's definitely more challenging for people who don't own property to keep up with the rising value of property.
To clarify, if you decide not to take it up, you could be in the position where you can't get into the market because prices just go up. At the same time, if you decide to take it up, then you'll have to live with higher debt unless you choose the Help to Buy scheme and have the government own part of your property. My final point to first home buyers is there's no easy decisions here, but doing nothing is probably not a good idea. In the 1980s, the Australian government, labour unions and employers began to recognise the importance of ensuring that all Australians had access to retirement savings. This period saw a series of reforms and policy shifts aimed at establishing a universal superannuation scheme.
The year 2000, we reach a national benchmark where each and every employee has a contribution to superannuation.
This was due to several factors, including an ageing population, increased life expectancy, and the recognition that reliance on the age pension alone would not provide a comfortable retirement for most Australians. In my mind, super has been a bit of a failure, but I can't argue against the reasons for it. It's just that most people don't have enough super in retirement, which is why the employer contribution is going up to 12% by 2025. The story gets far worse for super, but that is another video which will come out in the following weeks, so please subscribe if you want to see that one. I'm sorry for digressing a little bit here, but all of what I just said was to make the following point. If super is there for a reason, to have enough for retirement, then why are we taking money from it? A report from the McCall Institute in 2021 concluded that your average 30-year-old that took $20,000 from their super would be worse off 80 grand by retirement. At some point of researching this video, I've come to the conclusion that the housing crisis and the inevitable retirement crisis, it's just the same thing. The issue with housing prices is that it rises faster than our incomes do. This has been happening for a long time. It ensures people are staying in debt for longer and restricts their abilities to be able to save for retirement. Again, this is reflected in the fact that our compulsory super contributions are increasing to 12%. So in effect, the problems haven't been fixed, and things like Help to Buy and Super for Housing can be seen as just another example of kicking the can down the road. I guess what I just said helps answer the major question of how will these new schemes impact the property market. If you have a market that has a severe shortage and you increase the demand without being able to increase the supply, then the market can only go one way. None of these schemes are promises because they haven't been implemented yet. It does, however, paint a picture of what our society is going to look like in a few years' time. For updates on the Super for Housing and the Help to Buy schemes, please subscribe to the channel. I'd also like to share with you a personal project that I've been working on. My Personal Economy is a community that I'm in the process of creating. Its purpose is to help people answer the question of how do I make it financially, because this is becoming a massive issue. One of the main things I'm hoping to achieve is to document things that real people are doing that are working and helping them get closer to financial freedom. It's free to join, links are in the description. For more information on the Help to Buy scheme, you can watch this video here.